Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the CollectTheMagic Podcast. This is not a live podcast. I do not have the technology to do a live podcast yet, but this is being recorded on April 1st, 2014. This is CollectTheMagic, and this is the very first episode. I do not have an official title for this show yet. Hopefully one will come out of there soon. Currently, it's just the CollectTheMagic Podcast, but what it is basically is I'm going to be talking to you about news and things of that nature, news and reviews and things that are coming to Walt Disney World and things that are currently in Walt Disney World that are just being introduced. As the first episode, there are some things that are happening in Walt Disney World. I think everybody knows what's happening in Walt Disney World nowadays. There's a lot of going on between the MyMagic Plus and the FastPass Plus systems that are being introduced to the works of Avatar Land and possibly rumors out there of being a Star Wars land at Disney Hollywood Studios. All things of which we're going to talk about today, but the first thing I want to talk about is the Festival of Fantasy Parade that premiered about a month ago in Magic Kingdom Park. Festival of Fantasy Parade, it looks like an amazing parade. I actually won't be down in Walt Disney World until May 9th is when I'll be going down there. I live in a northern state, so I don't get to go down there very often, but I mean, the floats look absolutely incredible, and I'm so happy for once that they decided not to use that blue float from the 25th. It made its premiere in the 25th anniversary parade. My first ever trip to Walt Disney World was in 1996, and that's when I first saw that float. It's a blue castle float with mirrors and things like that. And I mean, they've used it in every other parade since then, just about. And some of the things that I just can't grasp is how Disney's been able to get away with that for so long. And I'm so glad that they're finally getting rid of that float because it's just a pain in the butt to watch. But the new floats that they've added are just incredible. Just so you know, there might be a little bit of spoilers here or there if you don't want to hear about the parade in detail. I'm not going to go into real detail about it, but detail enough. The floats and costumes are all brand new, as well as the soundtrack is brand new to this parade. And I've got to say, Disney has outdone themselves with the level of this parade. It is absolutely fantastic looking. The floats are absolutely massive. In fact, they are so massive that during the holidays, there's usually garland and ornaments strung between the two sides of Main Street USA. This year, they will not be able to do that because the parade floats are that massive that they would hit them. And, I mean, they are that huge, particularly the Maleficent float, which is Maleficent in her dragon form. It's a steampunk dragon. Disney has outdone themselves on this particular float. It actually breathes fire. It is a fantastic looking float. I cannot wait to see it in person. I've seen it in videos and pictures. I'm so excited. One of the coolest things about this parade is that the princesses actually lead the parade off. Usually it's been Mickey and Minnie leading it off. They actually conclude the parade now, which is really cool, and I think that's definitely how it should be. The princesses are going to bring the parade, start the parade with Beauty and the Beast, Belle and Beast, and you've got Cinderella and Prince Charming. You've also got the characters from Frozen, Elsa and Anna, and you've also got Tiana and Naveen from Princess and the Frog. The other floats involved include a Tangled float based off the Snuggly Duckling scene where you've got Flynn Rider and Rapunzel and Maximus and the thugs from the Snuggly Duckling. Now, the thing about this float is that the middle parts of the float swing back and forth, and they're giant, like, axes is what they look like, and they swing back and forth. And it's not just a little gradual swinging. I mean, they're really whipping these guys who are standing on these around. Flynn Rider's standing on one, and there's three of them that swing, and there's two thugs on the other ones. I mean, it really just swings them back and forth at quite a rate that you think they're going to fly into the audience. It's quite amazing. The other floats, there's a Brave float with Merida. It's shaped like a giant set of bagpipes, which I think is so cool. Merida never actually sang in the movie, yet she's singing in the parade, which is kind of interesting. I think it's a very interesting choice by Disney Imagineering to have her actually sing, which is interesting. There's a Little Mermaid float. Now, these floats, they're not in the correct order the way I'm saying them. The only ones that are in the correct order are the Mickey and Minnie float, which end the parade, and the princesses who lead it off. Now, Little Mermaid float's actually probably the smallest float, I would say. in the parade, but it's still a very nice looking float, very massive looking float. It's got Sebastian and Flounder, Ariel. The costumes in this particular scene are amazing. They're so great. There is a costume where this guy or female, whoever, the performer, is actually going to be wearing two seahorses on either side of them, and they spin all around. It's so cool. Such a cool costume. There's a red and yellow fish looking thing. I'm not quite sure what that's supposed to be, if it's like a lionfish or something, but it's a really cool looking costume. Everything looks so cool in that particular scene. And as I mentioned before, the Maleficent float. There's no actual villain float in this with the other villains, which is kind of bizarre, because in the rest of the parades that Disney has done, there's always been a villain float, or the villains have kind of just paraded their way down, but Maleficent is the only one. But what's cool about this one is that Prince Philip is actually in this, and the fairies from Sleeping Beauty, but Princess Aurora is not in the parade, which is very interesting. I find that very interesting anyway, to see that she's not in the parade, but everybody else from her movie is in the parade. The stilt walkers in that particular section of the parade are so cool. They're made to look like the thorn bushes at the bottom of the castle hill where Maleficent falls, and it's just so cool. These and the ravens. There's performers dressed up like ravens, and those look so cool as well. If you need to go check out pictures, you can go to wdwmagic.com, because they've got a lot of great pictures up there. You can also I'm sure you can just Google it, and I'm sure you'd find it, but I mean, a lot of these are really, really great things. There's also a Peter Pan float, where Captain Hook's on the bottom on an anchor, and you got Peter Pan and Wendy on the top on a ship, and on the back is Tinkerbell. And that is also really, really great. You look at it, and at least when I look at it, I think the anchor on the bottom, I think it's supposed to be swinging. At least that's the appearance that it is meant to be. I don't think it is actually supposed to swing, but that's what it looks like. And I think it's really cool to do a float like that. But if they're going to make that swing, they need to do it, because I don't think I'm the only one that's ever thought that that's supposed to be swinging back and forth, because Captain Hook is standing on it, and I think it'd be cool to have it swinging back and forth. The other float in there, and I don't think I've missed any. If I do miss one, I apologize. I think the only other float is the finale float. Oh, nope, there's one more. The one right before the finale float, it has Donald and Daisy and Goofy and Chip and Dale and all the original the Fab Five characters and all the original Disney characters, as well as just like classic characters, Alice in Wonderland characters, things of that nature. And you've got them kind of surrounding the float. It's a pretty large float lengthwise. It's very long, and they come through, and it's a pretty big float. It's got the bright colors and a very different set of costumes. It kind of looks like things are made of candy. In a way. Part of it has Fantasia characters on there, as well as Pinocchio characters. Pinocchio kind of leads off that float. He's sitting on the very front of it. Really awesome. It's kind of a combination between the Fantasia scenes and Pleasure Island from Pinocchio, and there's classic characters in there. It's a really interesting float overall. I think it's a very well done float. And the final float in the parade is, of course, the Mickey and Minnie close the parade. Like I said before, it's a big hot air balloon. And I don't know what that is kind of supposed to signify, but I think it's a really cool looking float as well. It's probably one of the smallest floats in the parade. It is one of the smallest floats in the parade, but it's really, really cool. It's small, yet simple, yet amazing, extravagant. You gotta love it. I love this parade, and I haven't even seen it yet besides a video on YouTube, videos on YouTube and pictures, but it looks amazing. I cannot wait to see it in person in May. All right, moving on to a project that is almost completed in the Magic Kingdom. It is the new Fantasyland. The new Fantasyland is almost completed, and the reason it's almost completed is because the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is almost done. Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is very interesting to me, because I am not a huge fan of roller coasters. I've done them before, but I'm not a huge fan. I have motion sickness and things like that, so I just can't do them. Rides like Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster, I just cannot do. This attraction, though, is very interesting to me, and the reason it's interesting is because it is going to be the first ride vehicle of its kind where the buckets on the minecart actually sway back and forth as you go through, similarly to the way a real minecart would. I think it's going to be an amazing attraction. I think that it did come with a price, and that price was Snow White's Scary Adventure. That was a classic attraction. I love that attraction. There were things about that attraction I think they could have improved on, but I don't think they needed to take it out completely. And I know a lot of people feel that way. And it's very unfortunate that it had to go down like that. I really think that could have been saved. That attraction could have been saved, and they could have done a meet and greet and built a new meet and greet building somewhere else in the new Fantasyland section, or even put it somewhere else. I think it's unfortunate that this is as great as Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is going to be, and I'm sure it will be amazing. The fact that we had to lose such a great attraction as Snow White's Scary Adventure is sad, and I think that it's unfortunate that happens, but I do realize that the parks change. Walt Disney himself wanted the parks to change. I understand that. I understand that some attractions just, they're there temporarily. All attractions are there on a temporary basis. Nothing is there permanently because anything could be taken out at a moment's notice. And I think it's unfortunate that such a classic attraction had to pay the price for that. But in playing devil's advocate as well, I think that they could have, it's better that attraction than other attractions, because there was a rumor going around that Haunted Mansion was going to be taken out, and I would have been very upset if Haunted Mansion would have been taken out at the Magic Kingdom. That is by far my favorite attraction at the Magic Kingdom because of its classicness and because of its simplicity. And it's not simple by any means. The effects are somewhat complex, but because they've updated it, but they still kept it very much, the core of the attraction is still the same. It's a fantastic attraction. Walt Disney worked on that attraction. It's his idea, and that's why I love that attraction so much. Any classic attraction is really what I like. And, Pirates of the Caribbean, Carousel of Progress, Haunted Mansion, those are the kinds of attractions I like. And I do think it's unfortunate that sometimes those attractions have to be taken out. My dog just sneezed. That's what that was. I think it's unfortunate that sometimes those attractions need to be taken out, but I'm thrilled for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. I think it's going to be an amazing attraction. I just really hope that Disney hasn't taken away an attraction. I guess what I'm trying to say is I hope this attraction will be better than Snow White's Scary Adventure, because if it's not, that was a waste of losing an attraction. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm excited for it, and I think it's going to be a great attraction, but we're going to move on now to a segment where I get really negative, and I don't want to get negative, but this has been driving me insane. And of course, I am talking about the installation of Avatar Land at Disney's Animal Kingdom. I am one to believe that Disney needs to stay within Disney, and they don't need to partner off with other companies. I'm a strong believer in that Disney is strong enough to make their own movies, and they don't need to make attractions based off of other companies' movies. I do understand that Avatar is the highest grossing movie of all time currently, and I do understand that it's very popular. I, for one, am not a fan of the movie. I'm just going to say that I think the storyline, I'm going to be honest, it's a ripoff of Disney's Pocahontas. It's set in space. And when I watched the film, that's the first thing that came to my mind, and I was very upset by it, because I said, this is not an original movie. This is just, Disney told the same story in half the time that it takes this James Cameron to tell it. And it's just, I'm not a fan of the movie. Although the special effects were amazing, I'll give it that. They were absolutely phenomenal. But I'm just not okay with that. I'm not okay with the movie. I'm also not okay with them invading the Disney theme parks. And I think it is an invasion. I don't think that, although Disney did approach James Cameron first, I think that it is unfortunate that such a bad story that Disney has already told. There was a Pocahontas attraction in Disney's Animal Kingdom long before Avatar even came out, and that attraction failed. It failed exponentially, and it's unfortunate that it did, because Pocahontas is a great film, and I just don't think the public likes that. And although I don't think that Disney's storytelling abilities is going to be able to save Avatar here. I think that Avatar, people are going to go see it because it's Avatar, not because of the story, which is unfortunate, because when I go see a movie, I want to see the story. I don't go for acting. I don't go for that. I go for the story. And it's very unfortunate when that happens, when the story is not told great, and it wasn't told great at all. So that's why I'm upset about Avatar Land. I'm upset because it's not a Disney movie, and I'm also upset because it was not a good movie in general. I'm also upset because Disney is going away from their own attractions. For instance, I'm going to bring up the American Idol Experience. I'm not a fan of that attraction, simply because the American Idol Experience does not fit within the Walt Disney Corporation. Walt Disney World is all about making dreams come true, and the American Idol experience crushes more dreams than it makes, because if you do the math, less than 5% of people who go to Walt Disney World every year actually end up on stage at the American Idol experience. Those who audition, majority of them are turned away and their dreams are crushed. Does that fit within the Disney organization? I don't think so. So I'm not a fan of the American Idol experience. I'm not a fan of Avatar Land. However, that brings me to my next subject, which is Star Wars Land. It's a rumor. Nothing has been made and set in stone yet, but I do think they need to do something at Disney's Hollywood Studios because that park is in trouble. I think the easiest way to do it is to get rid of the studio backlot tour and to put in something back there. I know the current rumor back there is that Pixar Place is going to expand to do a Cars Land back by Studio Backlot Tour and Lights Motors Action. Lights Motors Action is not what it was back when it opened, and it's getting old. I don't even go see it anymore because I don't need to. I've seen it a couple times, and that's all I needed. One of the attractions I think needs to update itself, but it's such an amazing attraction, is the Great Movie Ride. It's such a great attraction in general. I love that attraction. One of my favorites at the park, and it probably is my favorite at the park, actually. And I think that the attraction itself does need a little bit of help. I think they just need to update it a little bit. You know, if it's a take out that cowboy scene and put in a Pirates of the Caribbean scene, or that's just an example. I actually thought through this of what they could do, and there's so many things they could do. Some of those movies are not as iconic as they used to be. Am I saying get rid of the Wizard of Oz and Mary Poppins scene? Absolutely not. Those are still extremely iconic movies. But I think other movies could take its place. I think that a movie could take the Indiana Jones spot. I think a massive refurbishment and renovation needs to be done to save that attraction, because the attraction is not what it was, even though it is such a great attraction. But yeah, Star Wars Land. The rumor is out there that they're going to be expanding the park into a Star Wars Land and expanding the Star Tours area. You know, I'm all for expansion. I'm all for the expansion with the exception of Avatar Land. Disney owns Star Wars now, so I cannot say that I disagree with Star Wars. This is just one attraction. Do I like the fact that Star Wars might be taking over majority of the park? Not really. I'm not a fan of Star Wars in general. I like it, but it's not my favorite movie. But Disney owns the rights to Star Wars, and I think that it's interesting to note that because there is a Star Tours attraction in Disneyland. There's also a Star Tours attraction in Walt Disney World, and that Star Tours attraction just got the revamp to The Adventure Continues, I think, or something like that. Great attraction. I did it when I was out in Disneyland last April. Great attraction, absolute great attraction. But I think that to expand it into its own land, I think it might be a little bit of a waste of time. I think if you're going to focus on the Disney aspects of your park first and then go into the other ones, and when it comes down to it, Star Wars is first and foremost a George Lucas film. That's what it's known for. It's not known as a Disney film. So to expand that first doesn't make much sense. I understand there's that fan base, but it's more of a niche market. It's not Disney as a whole is a niche market, but everybody that comes there is coming because it's Disney. So if they were to expand Pixar Place first, I think that would be a much better use of their time. Last thing that I want to talk about, and I'm probably going to spend the most time on this, is the MyMagic Plus system that's just been implemented. The reason I want to talk about this is because I'm for a lot of it and I'm against a lot of it. I'm kind of in the middle ground on this. And the reason being is we just booked our trip. And we are going to be getting the wristbands, the Magic Bands, and we're going to be getting the FastPass Plus. We've already made some dining reservations on there. And we'll talk about the app a little bit. And everything that I've noticed so far is going to work, I think, for the park. But there's one thing I don't agree with, and that is FastPass Plus. MyMagic Plus, for those of you that don't know what it is, MyMagic Plus is a simpler way to get into the park. It is you would get a Magic Band, which is basically just a wristband. It's a heavy plastic, like a silicone wristband type thing, and you put it around your wrist, and in there is an RFID chip, and that RFID chip holds the information to let you access the park. So there's no need for paper tickets anymore. It is now all on your wrist. It also opens up your hotel room, so there's no paper key cards anymore to get into, or plastic key cards to get into your room. There's no keys to the world anymore, which I think was kind of unfortunate, because that was something that I looked forward to. I still have all my keys to the world from past trips. I have them all, and I collected those because it's something different. It's not Holiday Inn. Everybody has the same one. This is Disney we're talking about. So, but do I think it's going to be more convenient? Absolutely, to have everything on your wrist. It's also going to hold your FastPass information. You can FastPass Plus in a nutshell. I'll talk about it more in just a little bit, but in a nutshell, you go to the MyDisneyExperience.com or the corresponding app, and you book your FastPasses around your dining, reservations, and other things. And there's more FastPass opportunities now for rides like Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion, It's a Small World. Rides that didn't necessarily have a FastPass before now have a FastPass, which we'll talk about that in a little bit of how I really don't like that. Yeah, you book that ahead of time, and then you go to the attraction there, and you don't have to worry about running across the park to get a FastPass. The other thing, you can also load it with your credit card information and type in a PIN code at register and pay for everything there, so you don't have to bring your credit cards with you. That's something I actually like. I think that's a great thing to offer. The problem is if that gets lost, what happens? And I know you can get rid of the band. I know you can talk to a cast member and they can deactivate your band, but then what happens? How do you get into the park? I'm sure Disney has thought about all this, but how do you get into the parks? How, if you lose your band, how do you know somebody's not trying to rip you off? I'm sure there's security in place. I'm just not sure what it is. I'm sure I'll find out when I go down in May, but it's not very clear on the Disney website about what happens if you lose your band and what happens in that aspect. So talking about MyMagic Plus with the FastPass Plus. FastPass Plus, like I mentioned before, is a very simple, it's supposed to be a simpler way to do FastPass, but preferably, to be honest, I prefer the old way of doing FastPass. Reason being is because now you are limited to the number of FastPasses you can get per day. With the old system, there was no limit. You could go and do multiples a day as long as they didn't overlap in time. For those of you that really don't know what a FastPass is, I'll explain it. What you used to be able to, I'll explain the old method and then I'll explain the new method. The old method was there was a little kiosk box that was set up outside select attractions. And that was the key thing. This was select attractions. And now it's like pretty much every attraction, which I don't agree with either. It was select attractions. So let's say you were going to go up to Splash Mountain. You went up to the little box and you inserted your park ticket into this little box. And then you got your park ticket back and you would also get a little piece of paper. And on that little piece of paper, you would get the attraction name and a time, an hour slot in which you could return. So let's say it was between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. You could then come back at that time and get in a much shorter line that was not the standby line. So if the standby line was an hour for Splash Mountain, your FastPass wait, if you come back in your time, could be 10 to 15 minutes. And that was really what it was. It was trying to give those individuals who came into the park the opportunity to not have to wait in line. And a lot of people did not take advantage of the FastPass system like others did, and that was unfortunate. I really liked the old FastPass system because you were unlimited to the number you could use in one day as long as they didn't overlap. You couldn't have two attractions at the same time. But as long as you didn't have an active FastPass, you could go and get another one, and I loved that. The other thing that I liked about it was what we would do is my party that I went with, we usually had about 6 people in the group, give or take, but we usually had, the average was about 6. We would then take, not all of us rode, Tower of Terror. So my dad and my sister who would go and ride Tower of Terror, they would take all 6 of the park tickets, scan them all to get 6 fast passes, and those 2 would ride it 3 times in a row. And that's one thing I liked about it, was that you could do the same ride multiple times in a day. With the new system, you can't do that. You can only do one attraction. First of all, you can only pick one park per day. You can't park hop, which I think is ridiculous, because if Disney's going to make this a thing, you already offer a park hopper ticket. You have to offer this in the park hop. There's no way around it. You have to. And I think it's unfortunate when they don't. But like I was saying, you get one park per day and then one attraction. You can have 3 attractions, 3 fast passes per day, but they can't be the same attractions, which I think is ridiculous, because if somebody wants to use them all on Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, let them, because it's their time that they are wasting if they don't want to do other attractions. You're forcing them to do other attractions they might not want to do. And yes, there are more options with FastPass Plus, but I still don't agree with it. For example, at Epcot, the attraction Journey into Imagination, a very nice ride for kids, great family attraction. The average wait time was probably around 10-15 minutes. Now with this new FastPass system, it never had a FastPass. And now that it does, the average wait time has been 25 to 30 minutes. Just because it has a FastPass on it. Just because you put a FastPass on it doesn't mean it's a popular ride. Did it make the ride more popular? Absolutely. But this was not the correct way to do it. If you want to increase the attendance at an attraction, you need to market it better. not just throw a fast pass on there and say, look, now it's a popular attraction. I think it's baloney, an absolute baloney when they do that. And I hate that they're doing that. I think it's ridiculous. I do not agree with the Fast Pass Plus system really at all. The only thing I like about it is that you're able to pick your Fast Passes before you go on your trip. And I'm going to stop being negative and talk about that. That's actually really nice. The other thing that's kind of nice about it is you can actually go to DisneyWorld.com or MyDisneyExperience.com, whichever way you want to go to it. There's a link, and there's a link on the Disney World website. And you go to the MyMagic tab, and you can go to the attractions, and pretty much every attraction has a Fast Pass. And the nice thing that they've included now is they've included parades, priority seating for parades. That's your Fast Passes. You get a priority seating. And for fireworks. And for other type shows, because not every show had a Fast Pass. It was just you come back at the time that the show was being presented, and you got in, and if you didn't get in, you missed the show. But now they've actually set up priority seating in some of these shows, and it's all the fireworks shows too. So it's Fantasmic, Illuminations, Wishes, the Main Street Electrical Parade, all of the parades actually, not just the Main Street Electrical, all the parades have it, and I think it's really cool that they're doing that. I think that's a really awesome way to do it, to give them that option. But I wish they would go back to the original way of doing Fast Passes. You can still add these, because you could add Fast Passes to almost any attraction and do it the old way. I think that would be much better use of your time. More people are going to come into the parks. More people are going to take advantage of the Fast Passes. This way, people aren't going to take advantage of the Fast Passes, and it's unfortunate. Am I a fan of the Fast Pass system in general? Yes. Fast Pass Plus? No. So that's all that. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all we've got for you today at the Collect the Magic podcast. Make sure you tune in next week or whenever I have time to put up another one. I'm going to try to get these out weekly. They might come out, a couple of them might come out a week if we talk about some other things. I'm also going to have some guest hosts on here every once in a while. I'm going to be talking to a couple of my friends from school. We're both big Disney fans. We'll see if a couple of them can make an appearance on this and get their takes on the things that are happening at Walt Disney World. I have one friend who's going to be going down for her Disney College program Fall Advantage. She'll be leaving in May. She actually comes down while we're vacationing down there. She comes down to start her program. So let's see if she can come on here and talk to you about that for a little while. But in general, we're done here. So recap what we talked about today. Festival of Fantasy Parade, thumbs up. We'll just kind of do a thumbs up, thumbs down type of thing of everything we talked about today. Festival of Fantasy, thumbs up. Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, thumbs up, except the fact that we lost Snow White's Scary Adventure. That was a thumbs down. Avatar Land, big thumbs down. Oh my gosh, terrible idea. Star Wars Land, I'm in between. I don't have a preference for it. I'm in between. And finally, MyMagic Plus, in general, I'm a thumbs up, but the Fast Pass Plus, I'm a thumbs down. So thank you guys all for listening to this. This is going to be a weekly thing, like I said. Hope you guys all have a wonderful, wonderful time listening to the rest of these as they come out. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down in the description bar below or send me an email at collectthemagic@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to email everything or email back and talk and maybe give you a shout out on the show. So with that, I'm gonna stop talking because now I'm rambling. So have a magical day, everybody. This is Collect the Magic signing off.